everybody. Welcome to another edition of ATL Prime Sports. Todd Corder here in Atlanta. JJ on the other side of the ATL. Wayne, our producer in Memphis, Tennessee, and our guest is the voice of the Georgia State Panthers, here for some Panther talk, Dave Cohen. Guys, hope you had a great weekend. I did. I hope everybody had as good a weekend as possible and enjoyed the nice weather and etc. Before we get started, we got a little social media to do. You can catch all of us at ATL Prime Sports. You can catch JJ at JJ Get You One. You can catch Wayne at RWY Jr. And you can catch myself at Corder Todd. You can catch our guest at Georgia State Voice. So, guys, once again, hope you guys had a great weekend. And, it was a tough loss for my Detroit Lions, and it was a tough loss for Georgia State. Hey, Wayne and JJ, the Falcons won on a game-winning kick. Yours was, 40-something yards, upper 40s, and, of course, the Lions, they got Tom Dempsey again, losing on his 66-yarder. But the play before that, they gave up the 4th and 19.
Yeah, well, Memphis lost in a similar fashion on a game-ending field goal by the Roadrunners. So, if anything, the University of Texas San Antonio exposed some of the defensive problems that Memphis has.
JJ, hey, the kick for the Falcons won it. You must have been thrilled.
Yeah, on my end, the favorite teams won down to the high school on Friday night, so we're all good here.
You went
Georgia
3-0. There you go. So, hey, guys, you can catch the show on
Georgia played
Facebook,
a substitute
Twitter.
SEC team on Saturday afternoon.
All right,
They played
guys, you
Vandy.
can catch the show on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Follow us, like us, and we would greatly appreciate it. All right. Let's talk about tonight's show. We have Dave on. We're going to do some NFL quick hits, talk about the Falcons, give a pick six, talk a little bit more and talk a little bit more of college football and all that right here on ATL Prime Sports. Dave, welcome back. As always, you're the friend of the show. You do a fantastic job on the Georgia State Football Network for the Panthers, and it's good to have you on as always. And I've just got to get right to it. Georgia State, they controlled this game. They're up 24-12 in the half. They put a major scare into Auburn this weekend. Coach Elliott was not happy with a call that went Auburn's way. Talk about that situation. It was a game of almost. They almost got another SEC team, but they got outscored big time in the second half, and that ultimately was the difference, in my opinion.
Well, I concur with your opinion. 22-0, we got outscored in the second half, and everything that we were able to accomplish and execute in the first half to take that 24-12 lead into the locker room at halftime, just weren't able to repeat that when we came out of the locker room to play the second half. And, we were able to move the ball on them, more so on the ground than in the air. But, we were having some success on both avenues. And, Bo Nix was struggling to throw the football, struggling to move Auburn. Tank Bigsby, their top running back, who really I was worried about coming into the game. He was averaging 7.3 yards per carry. And I'm like, oh, boy, how are we going to stop this guy? This is one of the top running backs in the Southeastern Conference. He really didn't hurt us at all, in the first half, and really didn't hurt us at all for the most part for the game. They made a quarterback change in the second half. And they brought in this kid, T.J. Finley, to replace Nix, 6'7", 245, an absolute aircraft carrier, tough to bring down, not a lot of speed, but enough. And he came in and threw that touchdown with 45 seconds to go to put Auburn on top. And they converted on a 2-point conversion opportunity, and they all of a sudden were up 28 to 20. I make that 27 to 24. And then, out of desperation, Darren Granger, tries to fire a bullet down the middle of the field. It's intercepted in return for a touchdown, 36 yards. And, we go from being up 5 to down 3 to down 10. And, and there was a call made late in the ball game. If you follow Auburn or Georgia State, or you watch any college football shows on the weekend, you probably saw it. You know, it was a throw to the tight end, Schenker. The question was, did he catch it cleanly, or did it bounce, or was it trapped by the turf when he came down? I don't know. I stood there in the radio booth and I watched it, and initially I thought it was a good catch, but you know, to not debate that, listen, it would have been great. They went from the they ended up going from the 30-yard line down to the 11, and that made the difference because they got another opportunity. If that stays at the 30, who knows what happens? But you know, back up into that second half, and we Georgia State just did not do a whole lot on offense. And I'm not going to say we made it easy, but Auburn came out in the second half and they played with a sense of urgency. And it started with a block punt that they recovered in the end zone for a touchdown. And that was the spark that kind of got things going for Auburn and again, started them playing with a sense of urgency. And I think I did say this on the radio a number of times. Look, you know, I've been to Auburn many times. That was the first time with football. I've been there a few times with Georgia State basketball. I've been there a few times with Georgia State baseball. I've left Auburn one time with a win. That was when Mike Perry was the head basketball coach at Georgia State. We beat Auburn at the old Eves Coliseum. I'm trying to remember if I've ever left there with a win in baseball. Honestly, I can't remember, but we've played over there a number of times. And Auburn's first two games this year, they scored 60 against Akron and 62 against Alabama State. We may have talked about this last week. Listen, you guys know as well as I do. The Auburn fans, for all intents and purposes, Georgia State was just another Alabama State and was just another Akron. They figured that they were going to put on their cleats, put on their uniforms, run out onto the field and score 50 points. And so, if nothing else, Georgia State certainly did make a statement by the way they were able to play in that first half. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in that Auburn locker room at halftime to hear what Brian Harsin and that coaching staff had to say. But credit where credit's due. That's why they were 23rd in the country. They came out in the second half and put us on our back heels and really denied Georgia State anything offensively in the second half that we were able to do in that first half. A very disappointing loss because, unlike baseball or basketball, you figure, well, we'll get another shot. Our schedule is built out through, I think, 2029 or 2030. And honestly, do you think Auburn's going to send an invitation to Georgia State to come over there and be their homecoming team again? Probably not.
Probably not. Dave, 1 second, JJ. Sean Elliott's comments, they were really strong. He's familiar with SEC officiating, having been assistant at South Carolina from 2010 to 2016. And, he really insinuated that Auburn benefited from having an SEC crew calling the game. And he said they had a little help on that interference call, and it should have been put back on to 30. He said, when you play in the SEC, you got to take the hits, referring to the players and the officials. And it was a real gut punch on that call, so we appreciate that. But he was proud of the way the team competed. But in this case, even if the call was wrong, you and I concur that that's not what lost Georgia State the game. They got outscored big time in the second half, and if they would have just moved the ball some and scored, it wouldn't have came down to this.
Exactly. I mean, it's yes, was that a big play, that call? Look, no question for that. For that point with inside of a minute to go, that's a big non-call right there. I'm not going to lie to you. But, is that ultimately what won the game? On paper, yes. But like I said, if you go back through the entire second half, man, if we just kick a field goal or two, Auburn is back on their heels again. And, what are we doing allowing a block punt? In a game like that? That was just, I don't know. I mean, those are the kind of things that keep you up at night, if you're in the business. because you go back in your mind and you're replaying every down, or at least the big plays. You're replaying them in your head. What could we have done differently? Why was there no one there to block? And I can't remember the kid's name right off the top of my head. Why was there nobody there to block the kid from coming in and getting a clear shot at our Michael Hayes, the punter, to block it, and then it's recovered in the end zone for a touchdown? I mean, if you're gonna go and beat the 23rd ranked team in the country on their home field, I mean, those kind of things, those are things that are tough to overcome, along with whatever calls you may or may not agree with.
You're listening to Dave Cohen right here on ATL Prime Sports. You can follow Dave at GA State Voice. Dave, I was catching the call. That was a gut punch, but we'll flash forward. The rest of the games matter the most, and I will make a quick comment about the Auburn fans and you talking about it. They're undefeated against Sun Belt Conference foes, and they had like a 30-plus point margin of victory over Sun Belt. So that's, again, they kind of just thought they were going to plow over the Panthers, and that was far from the case. But let's move on.
Let me say this. So Auburn's head coach is Brian Harsin. Most of our viewers or listeners will remember him from Boise State. But do you know where he was prior to Boise State? He was in the Sun Belt Conference at Arkansas State for 1 year.
Arkansas State, yeah.
I couldn't call it if it was Arkansas State or Louisiana Monroe. I knew it was one of the schools out in the western part of the conference. That's interesting. I did not know that.
So he was there for 1 season, and 1 season, does not make a Sun Belt career. But I'm saying, I know that he had an idea of what Sun Belt football can be and what it is.
Absolutely. We'll flip it to the Sun Belt Conference games. They matter the most for the Panthers right now. Quarterback Chase Bryce, over 1,000 yards on the season already, 5 touchdowns, and the Appalachian State Mountaineers come to Atlanta on Saturday this weekend. How do the Panthers stop that Mountaineers passing game, and how can they win this game on Saturday, Dave?
Well, their running game worries me. I watched a good bit of their game against Marshall. What was it, last Thursday night? They ended up holding off the Thundering Herd by a point, 31-30. But, yeah, I mean, we have yet to beat Appalachian State since they came into the Sun Belt Conference. They, along with Louisiana, Lafayette. This year, South Alabama's off to a 4-0 start, so, they're not receiving the national publicity. And then Coastal Carolina, who's 17th in the AP Top 25. Those are the teams that right now are the face of the Sun Belt. When you talk to people around the country who are not following the Sun Belt week in and week out, you mention one of those 3 or 4 teams. Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I'm familiar with that, with those programs. Listen, App State, again, Bryce, the transfer has been fantastic. Their only misstep was a loss at Miami. And that was, if I remember correctly, somewhat close football game.
Points, I believe, yeah.
Yeah, and, they've scored 30, 33, 40, and 31 in their other 3 games, which were all wins. Can we? Sure. Can we score? Is it going to take it scoring at least 30 points to beat them? And then coming up with the kind of defensive effort that we played against Auburn in the first half? We had a great opportunity to beat Appalachian State last year up in Boone. We ended up losing 17-14 because, again, we couldn't score in the second half after leading that ball game at halftime. We're going to have to play 2 halves of football. Our corners and safeties are going to have to do a fantastic job covering their receivers and the tight end. Another name that you'll hear is Thomas Hennigan, one of their top 2 receivers. The Noel kid is one of the running backs, that can really carry the football. They've got a couple others, and I'm just starting to get into, all of my Appalachian State preparation. But, I know we all know pretty much what to expect from them. They've been balanced in the air and on the ground, and, have done a fantastic job since they've come into the Sun Belt Conference. So we know pretty much what to expect. I'm not saying you have to play a perfect game, but if we could come out and play for an entire game or most of the entire game like we did in the first half against Auburn, that would be a big win because, like I've said, we've yet to beat them in Sun Belt Conference play since they've come in the league.
Yeah. Well, Dave, I'm feeling much better about the Appalachian State game than I was previous to this Auburn game because the intensity that they played Auburn was fantastic. And I've been an Auburn fan since I was a kid, before I went to University of Memphis. But Tell us, that's an afternoon game. Where can we catch the game? Where can we hear the game? And just give us some specifics.
I can do that because we always need listeners. We're always in need of more listeners, right?
Always.
So the game will be on the radio in Atlanta on our flagship. It's a nice 50,000 watt FM, 88.5 FM WRAS. We have a radio affiliate up in Gainesville, just up 85 and 985, WGTJ 97.5 FM. And then everybody now listens on their phone or their tablet, so you can download the Georgia State Athletics mobile app, and you can download the TuneIn Radio app. If you're going to be on TuneIn Radio, you just search WRAS. There you go, JJ. You've got it. So you'll see right there in the front. I don't know if it's up there yet because it's only Monday, but as soon as you tap the app for the GSU Athletics mobile app, the schedule, the game, and the ability to tap and listen will be right there. It could not be any easier. So, yeah, we're listening. We'll be, it's a 2 o'clock Eastern time kick, 1:30 airtime with our Panther pregame show, countdown to kickoff, and looking forward to it. It was such a disappointing loss, on Saturday, that it will be interesting to see, how this Georgia State team responds. Coach Elliott met with members of the media via Zoom earlier today, Monday, and seemed to be pleased with practice, knowing, what they had just come off of Saturday night at Auburn. And, knowing the Georgia State coaches and Coach Elliott, as I have for the last four and a half years, as we've said a number of times, even coming back from North Carolina game up in Chapel Hill, look, you got to have a short memory because when you hit the practice field the following Monday, as they did this morning, there's nothing you can do about the Auburn game. The only thing you can do anything about is have a good week of practice and get ready for who's next, and that's Appalachian State.
Right.
Dave, thanks so much for coming on. You're so correct, and that's why each and every week is so special in college football. Expect the unexpected, and hopefully Georgia State will bring a win back next week. And you can cross off these first 4 games if they win that conference game, because that puts them at 1-0, and they control their own fate in the Sun Belt. So you're right. The team has to have a short memory to get out of non-conference play. Thanks so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week about the Appalachian State game. Really appreciate it.
All right, sounds good. Hopefully they'll have a good week of practice, and we'll have a W to talk about when we meet again here on ATL Prime Sports.
I sure hope too. I was actually at the halftime. I was checking the scores on the game that I was doing on ESPN Plus between Central State and Miles, and the producer was an Alabama guy, and he kept putting the old Georgia State score in our ear. So, hopefully we'll see Georgia State take one next week and have App State. So, take care, all right?
All right, you guys take it easy. We'll talk to you next week.
Talk to you next week. Dave Cohen, the voice of the Georgia State Panthers, here on Panther Talk on ATL Prime Sports each and every week. Guys, let's go to our reaction and overreaction in college football. You guys can check out my top 10, TC's top 10 on Twitter. You can respond to it. At Corder Todd, I have plenty of responses already. Really appreciate that. I've got Oklahoma number 10 in my top 10. They are 6th in the AP. Is this overreaction or reaction? JJ, go quick. We got 1 minute on each one of these.
Absolutely not an overreaction. TC, I think you got them ranked right here. Oklahoma just has not played well against FBS teams. Sorry, Boomer Sooner Nation. Every FBS win has been by 1 possession, and every game they've played in, double-digit favorites. The O-line's getting beat at the line of scrimmage. Rattler was pressured on 11 of 41 dropbacks. OU is doing something right, though. They are playing defense. They're only giving up 16 points a game, but it is not an overreaction. Right now, they are right outside the top 10, or put them at 10.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's not an overreaction. They're not quite as good as everybody thinks they are. They've won 3 really close games that they could have easily lost. So, we'll see what they do when they start conference play.
We will. 1 through 8 was pretty easy for me. 9 and 10 was much more difficult. Cincinnati will beat Notre Dame this weekend. Is that an overreaction or reaction? overreaction? JJ, go first.
No, that's not an overreaction. I think they do it. Desmond Ritter's an NFL talent. Ask UGA. He played very well against them last year. Kuiper Jr. has him as the number 8 quarterback behind Carson Strong out of Nevada. If the Bearcats get running back Jerome Ford going, watch out. He's got 6 touchdowns, 300 yards rushing on the season. His Bearcat D needs to defend the run better. They are giving up a little over 130 yards a game. That won't beat Notre Dame, but if they fix that, it is not an overreaction. The Bearcats can, and I'm calling it, they will beat Notre Dame. That's a little
Wayne,
prediction.
what about you?
Yeah, I would say it's not an overreaction. They're going to beat Notre Dame without any question in my mind because Cincinnati's that good.
I've got the Irish. Notre Dame has won a ton of close games over the years under Brian Kelly. Them and Oklahoma are really pretty similar this year. They're winning a lot of close games. They know how to win games, especially in the fourth quarter. The Irish's fourth quarter against Wisconsin, you were wondering where that was the first 3 quarters. I think Notre Dame at home will win and beat Cincinnati. Playing in that environment is not, that's not something Cincinnati does on a regular basis. We'll see how it works out. Georgia's the best team in the nation. Is that an overreaction or not a reaction, JJ?
That is definitely
overreaction. Excuse me. Go ahead.
They are still the best team in the nation, in my opinion. Clemson's still a ranked win. It was at a neutral site, and it was to open the season. They didn't open with the cupcake. They didn't do anything like they went to a powerhouse and beat them. Look, they beat a Vandy team 62-0, nearly scoring more points than yards allowed by the Commodores the entire game. That's 62 points, 77 yards. This team is for real. Since not scoring an offensive touchdown versus Clemson, outscored its opponents 158-20. That is not an overreaction. Georgia is the best team in the country, TC. Wayne, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they're the best team. There's only 2 places in this country that don't think they're the best team, and that would be around central Alabama and around certain parts of Pennsylvania. I believe it's called University Park, Pennsylvania.
I'll tell you what, right now, until the champion is dethroned, they're still number 1. Look, Georgia's win over Clemson each week is looking worse, unfortunately, because NC State beat Clemson this weekend. Now, I expect Clemson to run it the rest of the way, but the way they're playing right now, it doesn't look good. I mean, look, Alabama has a penchant of winning big games, and Georgia does too. But when it comes between Georgia and Alabama winning at all, Alabama has done it repeatedly, and Georgia hasn't done it since 1980. I know that's a program. I'm going back in history. But until Georgia bucks that trend, I've got Bama right now as number 1 in the defending champs. Let's go ahead and
overreaction.
talk NFL quick hits. The Falcons, they won it 17-14. It was a real squeaker in the Meadowlands. They won it with special teams at the end. Won it with a field goal. Atlanta came out of its 0-2 shell, and they're 1-2, JJ. How impressed were you with the Falcons on Sunday?
Impressed, I wouldn't say is the word. They got away with the W. It was a 17-14 squeaker, but hey, here are the highlights. Matt Ryan came away with this 39th game-winning drive of his career. 39th. He's only the 10th quarterback all time to reach the 350 passing TD mark. Those are some high notes from the game. I'm going to stay positive here because it was a double. Look, Matt Ryan tied the game up with an 8-minute 40-second drive, 15-play touchdown drive. Then he went ahead with 1:50 left, took him down the field with 2 25-plus yard passes, allowing Koo to kick the game-winning 40-yard field goal as time expired. So I think a lot of good to take out of this game. Arthur Smith's first win. Let's keep moving forward.
Yeah, I really would say relieved would be my reaction to that. Not so much excited. But at least I don't have to see tweets or hear people talking about 0-17 anymore.
Hey, here's the situation. The team was never going 0-17. it's not an 0-17 football game. You know, a lot of people are picking them around 6 or 7 wins. We'll see how that is with the upcoming schedule. But I'll say this about the Falcons. Their defense came to play Sunday. They kept the team in it until Matt Ryan and his heroics, took them down for the game-winning drive. But, giving Davis the football, 12 carries and 50 yards, he needs the football more. They need to run the football a little bit more to be more effective on offense with balance. But you got to take the win. You've got the Jets coming up. They should be able to win that one. Carolina's going to be an awful difficult game. This team just takes it week by week. It's been ugly, but you know what? In the National Football League, a win is a win, and we got to take it. All right, let's switch over from football over to baseball. The Braves have a very important 3-game series with the Phillies, 2.5-game lead, 3 in the loss column. So if Atlanta can take 2 or 3 from Philadelphia, that would sink the Phillies. And to me, look, it's about starting good pitching and timely hitting, and that infield is setting home run records all over the place for an infield between Freeman, Albies, Swanson, and of course Riley. I mean, guys, this is really incredible when you go back to baseball history. 4 guys can have all of them can have more than 30 homers. That to me is incredible. And Ozzie has really picked up the slack in the leadoff spot for Cunha, even though they moved him up and down the ladder in the order.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're right about it. The infield's hitting home run after home run. I think Swanson's the only one left. I think he's right in the upper 20s. He could do it. He's got 6 games left. If they need a 7th game with the Rockies, they could possibly make up that possible game. So they could have 7 games to get to 30. That would be the first time that's ever happened. Look, the Braves played extremely well on their recent road trip, going 7-3, minus the half-game loss to San Diego, which was technically a home game. They played well this season on the road overall, 46-35 this year. Hopefully they can take that momentum on the road in the postseason because they're going to need it. In order to win on the postseason, you need pitching. I'm going to go in depth. You got a little bit deeper with what TC said. I think you got to go straight to the closer. Closer Will Smith must clean up some of the walks. He can't walk the bases loaded and expect to get out of it every time. So that's got to get cleaned up if the Braves want to do anything after they win the division.
Well, you're picking them to at least win 2 out of 3. The Phillies have been resilient. This is the best ball they played all year. They've been win 1, lose 1. This is the highest they've been over 500 all year. So we'll see if they can continue it. And it's an important week, and great point about the Braves' road record. That has been something that has been a pleasant surprise. JJ, I'm going to let you take over the pick 6 because I need to change my luck. I am 10-14 after going 3-3. Wayne is 11-13 after going 4-2. And you pulled it out of your rocker. You're 13-11 overall, and you went 5-1 last week. I'm going to put the hex on you and reverse the curse, and you take over the rest of the way.
So it is the ATL Prime Sports Pick 6. We do go by Monday's spread, folks. Monday's spreads, remember that for the entire time. Number 8, Arkansas, 4-0, 1-0 in the SEC, travels between the hedges to number 2, UGA, also 4-0. They are 2-0 in the SEC. UGA is a 18.5-point favorite as of Monday, folks. Remember, Monday spreads. The over-under is 49. TC, start us off. Wayne, you next. I'll finish off last.
Boy, this is a tough one to pick. That 18 points is right on the line. You know, these people in Vegas know what they're doing. But Georgia's defense, they have not faced an offense like this at all. They're going to face the biggest physical challenge that they're going to face all season. And I just don't think they beat Arkansas by 18. I say it'll be 17, 16-point game. It's 14, somewhere in there. I'll take Arkansas. They're a really physical football team. And Georgia better put on their tool belt because they're in for a good ride in that game between the Hogs and the Dogs.
Wayne, 18.5 in the dogs, or are you taking the hogs and the points?
I'm taking the Hogs and the points. I think Georgia will win, but it'll only be about 7 to 10 point win. It won't be more than 18 points.
Georgia covers. UGA executes well at all times at all three phases of the game. Georgia Davis slows down KJ Jefferson and company. Arkansas doesn't run the football. UGA wins by 21. Number 7, Cincinnati, 3-0 at number 9, Notre Dame in South Bend. Cincinnati's a 2.5-point favorite. The over-under's 51. TC, kick us off.
I've got the Irish. I said it earlier. They win big games. They really do, except for the playoffs. They're a team that just stays around. It doesn't matter who the opponent is, and Brian Kelly always pulls it out. I've got Notre Dame.
Yeah, I'm taking Cincinnati in this one. It would have been even a bigger win if they would have played in Cincinnati, but they'll go into Notre Dame and win.
And you already know my pick from earlier in the overreaction or not an overreaction. I'm taking Cincinnati. They're ready to be at the dance. They win this one. They take care of business the rest of the year. They will be in the college football playoff. Mark it down. Number 12, Ole Miss, 3-0. First SEC game, traveling to number 1, Tuscaloosa, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Undefeated 4-0, 1-0 in the SEC. Alabama's a 14.5-point favorite. The over-under is 77.5. The experts do expect this to be a high-scoring shootout. TC, start us off.
Oh, I agree with a high-scoring shootout. Ole Miss could keep up with them, but Alabama's defense is better. Man, that 14.5 is a tough one. Ole Miss defense is better, but I tell you what, Louisville, when I went to the game down there at the Dome, they did pick them apart in the second half to make it somewhat respectable. I think Alabama covers, but barely.
Yeah, well, I'm taking Ole Miss into points.
All right. What about you, JJ?
This was a coin flip. This one's tough. I really wanted to pull Alabama out and say they cover, but look, Bama's D was exposed in the swamp. I think Matt Carroll can really expose this team. I almost said Lincoln Riley there. Lane Kiffin might be the first assistant to get the win against Saban. I'm taking the safe bet, Mississippi and the points. Let's go to the NFL portion of things. We're starting off with the Washington football team at the Atlanta Falcons. Both teams come in at 1-2. It's a coin flip game. It's another even pick 'em. Over-unders 48.5. TC, go.
Washington has the better defense. Atlanta has the better offense. Generally, with the brain, the better defense wins. But I'm picking the Falcons at home. I can't pick a team that says Washington football team in front of it. They need to come up with a name. And if it's the Redskins, I'm fine with it. If it's not, come up with another name. But please remove that title. I've got Atlanta at home. They have a much better quarterback. They have a Hall of Fame quarterback. I just figured a way to get it done.
Yeah, well, I'm taking the Falcons to win this one outright.
Yeah, I'm going with Washington in the defensive line. They can ball. Cornerback A.J. Terrell for the Atlanta Falcons could be sidelined again, and that means scary Terry McLaurin could expose ATL secondary. I like the Washington football team. Cardinals 3-0 at Rams 3-0. Rams are 6-point favorites after a big win against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. The over-under is 53.5. Again, LA is a 6-point favorite. Cardinals, Rams, TC, your pick.
Oh, what's the chant that they do when the Lakers play? Beat LA, beat LA. Not going to beat LA. The Rams, I got Rams and Matthew Stafford to cover.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I've got Rams to cover.
Okay, boys. Well, chalk it up for me. I'm taking the Cardinals and the points. Buccaneers 2-1 at the Patriots 1-2. Tom Brady's return to New England. We've been looking forward to this one for a long time. The Bucs come in as 6-point favorites. Over-unders 49. TC, I'll let you take it away.
Tampa Bay to cover. You kidding me? Are you kidding me? Tom Brady's hair is on fire. He's ready to go. They'll cover and then some. They lost last week. They're not losing this game. No way. They'll cover and they'll win by double digits.
Wayne?
Bucks bounce back and beat the Pats.
I agree.
See, going last here and you guys both picking the Bucks, I really want to go with Belichick 'em, but I can't. I'm going Tom Brady. Brady's the best. The GOAT's going to come back. He's extra motivated. You know he's going to be. Brady goes in there and puts on a show and says, "Why'd you let me go?" That is our pick 6, folks, for the evening. TC, Wayne, any final thoughts on the pick 6? Any comments you want to get in about any of the games?
I got a final thought. I got a T-shirt here that says some smack apparel that I sent you guys today. It said, "Lane is so lame, he ain't got no game." Well, he's got game, but Alabama, you know, they're always going to come up with something. And look, it's all fun and fodder, and I love it. Fodder, excuse me. I just made up a new word in the English dictionary, fodder instead of fodder. How you like that one?
I love it. That's what we do here at ATL Prime Sports.
The only thing Lane Kiffin ain't got is respect.
Ooh,
man! I tell you what,
this weekend,
you know, Alabama, they're just having a ball with this stuff here with all the T-shirts. They usually come up with a slogan in a big game and they sell them. And look, I understand this is a big Southeastern Conference game, and whoever wins this game is going to have a leg up in the SEC West, which probably is the toughest division in college football, with 5 teams that, you know, that are right there. And of course, I think Alabama separates itself. But anyway, so all right, well, that's the end of the show, guys. We do have a show this Friday. We could not have one last Friday. Sorry about that. Our producer, Mark Mancini, had an emergency in the family. So we will definitely have a show this week. It'll be at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. The phone number is 1-347-205-9631 or blogtalkradio.com. I will have a guest. We'll actually hopefully have 2. The first guest will be Dwayne Walker, who will do the play-by-play. I will have the color commentary for one of the SIAC games of the week on ESPN+. That'll be Clark Atlanta versus Tuskegee in Alabama. We'll bring it to you at 1 Central, 2 Eastern on ESPN+. Check that out. Dwayne and I will talk about the keys to that game. And then our second guest, hopefully, will bring Evie Van Pelt on with the Rebel Walk, or David Walker, and we'll talk about the Ole Miss Alabama matchup. We'll have some more Falcons talk, and that will be the end of that show. Again, you can catch it live 1 p.m. Eastern, 1-347-205-9631. We'll talk some college football, some NFL football, and we thank each one of our listeners. And guys, it's been a great show. We'll talk to you Friday. Have a great week.
Ladies and gentlemen, Braves go for 4. Get you one. We'll see you Friday.